There was a moment, quiet but telling, when Shedeur Sanders paused before answering a particularly charged question. You could almost feel the weight he was carrying. Not just the scrutiny, not just the media spin, but the isolation. The cameras were on, the pressure high, and the questions anything but innocent. And yet, Sanders didn't lash out. He didn't fold. He took a breath, looked straight ahead, and gave a response that balanced respect, strategy, and strength.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
That pause said more than words ever could. It underscored just how far Sanders has come, and how much he's had to carry alone. He's not just quarterbacking a team. He's managing a narrative, controlling his image, and shielding himself from chaos. When your own coach won't step up, that's not just a gap. It's a warning sign. Sanders proved he can handle the pressure, but he shouldn't have to prove it alone every week. The Cleveland Browns media thought they were going to rattle Shedeur Sanders. They walked into that press room with an agenda, ready to throw him off balance with questions that had nothing to do with football and everything to do with drama. They expected a rookie quarterback to crack under pressure. Instead, they got a masterclass in poise. It started with subtle jabs, a few passive-aggressive questions about leadership, tone, expectations. Then they escalated, trying to catch him slipping with political bait and personal questions no rookie should have to navigate alone. But Shedeur didn't flinch. Not once. His answers were measured, respectful, and airtight. No ranting. No sidestepping. Just clarity. And that right there, that's what flipped the room. The reporters realized they weren't dealing with someone easily manipulated. They were dealing with someone who had already figured them out. It's not just that Shedeur handled the pressure well. It's how strategic he was. Every answer was deliberate. He understood the moment. He knew how quickly one sentence, one misstep, could be twisted and turned into controversy. And rather than react emotionally, he kept full control of the narrative. That's not just maturity. That's media savvy most veterans don't even have. But instead of praising that, the Cleveland media kept pushing. They didn't want professionalism. They wanted headlines. They wanted to bait him into saying something they could spin. And when that failed, when Shedeur refused a bite, they were left scrambling for a new angle. Here's where it gets worse. While Sanders was doing his part, leading with composure and showing real growth, his head coach, Kevin Stefanski, was nowhere to be found. Not literally, but symbolically. No public support. No backing his quarterback during a moment that clearly required leadership from the top. Stefanski let his young QB face the music alone. That silence was loud, and it sent a message, one that said, "You're on your own." That lack of support didn't go unnoticed. Not by the media, not by fans, and certainly not by Sanders. It's one thing to take heat for bad play. It's another to take heat for how you don't react when media tries to bait you. And it's even worse when your own coach lets you take all that heat alone. Leadership isn't just about drawing up plays. It's about knowing when to step in and defend your guys, especially when they're being targeted unfairly. Stefanski's decision to stay silent wasn't just disappointing. It was damaging. It undercut the very concept of team unity. Because if your coach won't stand up for you publicly, especially when you're handling yourself like a professional under pressure, then who will? Shedeur didn't lash out about it. He didn't complain. He kept doing what he's been doing, showing up, handling his business, and refusing to let the noise dictate his path. But it's clear the pressure is being placed unevenly. He's not just carrying the burden of quarterbacking the team. He's also carrying the weight of being the adult in every room he walks into. The Cleveland media continues to focus on things that have nothing to do with football. They throw out political questions and tabloid-style angles, completely ignoring what actually matters: his performance, his leadership, and his growth. That obsession with gossip over gameplay has turned sports journalism in Cleveland into something that barely resembles analysis. They're not covering the game. They're covering stories, trying to manufacture conflict where there isn't any. And they're doing it at the expense of one of the only people trying to stay grounded. What's really telling is that Shedeur's respectful, tactful responses to even the most ridiculous questions never get the same spotlight as the questions themselves. when he diplomatically addresses loaded political topics with maturity. That doesn't make the headlines. The bait does. The media's trap becomes the story, not the fact that he refused to step in it. That should tell you everything you need to know about their priorities. But here's what's undeniable. Shedeur's refusal to engage in media chaos, his steady presence, his unwavering focus, that's real leadership. And it's not something he's learning on the fly. It's something he walked into Cleveland already equipped with. He's not interested in playing the media game. He's interested in winning football games, in leading a team, in earning respect the right way, through consistency, focus, and action. But that doesn't fit the narrative they're trying to push. Because the media doesn't know what to do with someone who won't give them the controversy they're looking for. And while Sanders is out here being the only adult in the room, Stefanski's silence continues to speak volumes. He's not defending Sanders. He's not checking the media. He's not redirecting the focus back to football. He's just letting it happen. That's not just a missed opportunity. It's a leadership failure. A young quarterback shouldn't have to navigate the politics of media manipulation and locker room leadership by himself. And yet, Shedeur is doing both. The fact that he's handling it this well is impressive. But the fact that he has to? That's the part that should concern everyone. What's happening here isn't sustainable. You can't expect a player to lead both on and off the field and be his own PR team. At some point, the coaching staff and the organization have to decide what kind of culture they're building. One where the media gets free rein to take shots, or one where the focus is on growth, performance, and character? Because right now, it's clear who's doing their job and who isn't. The Browns have a chance to reset that tone, to step in, redirect the narrative, and remind everyone, including their local media, that the game is about football, that leadership is something to protect, not punish, that professionalism deserves recognition, not suspicion. Shedeur Sanders is already doing the hard part. He's staying focused under a microscope. He's responding to cheap shots with grace. He's navigating pressure most young quarterbacks never even see, let alone handle, with maturity. He's proven that he can be the... So why is it so hard for people around him to act like it? If anything, this whole situation has exposed the gap between those who talk about leadership and those who actually show it. Sanders isn't performing maturity. He is mature. And the more the media tries to rattle him, the clearer it becomes that they've underestimated just how composed he really is. That's what makes this entire ordeal so frustrating. The conversation should be about his development on the field, his command of the offense, his ability to grow under pressure. But instead, we're stuck talking about how he handled political bait at a press conference. That's not just a media failure. That's a football failure. The game has always been bigger than the headlines. But in Cleveland, the headlines keep trying to rewrite the game. And unless the Browns organization decides to put an end to that, the media will continue to hijack the narrative. But here's the part they didn't see coming. Shedeur isn't just dodging their traps. He's setting a new standard. Quietly, strategically, and with every calm, focused answer, he's building something stronger than a viral moment. He's building credibility. That kind of control doesn't go unnoticed. Fans are seeing it. Teammates are seeing it. And whether the media wants to admit it or not, they're seeing it too. That's why the tone of their questions keeps shifting. That's why the attempts to catch him slipping keep falling flat. They regret coming for someone who wouldn't play their game. Now it's time for the Browns to stop watching from the sidelines and start playing their role. Step up, set the tone, redirect the focus. Because if this team is serious about winning, serious about building around real leadership, then it starts with protecting the one person already embodying everything they claim to value. Segment. CB Master Collection. If you've been watching this unfold and wondering when the Cleveland Browns are finally going to back the guy who's already carrying himself like a seasoned pro, go ahead and hit that like button. Let us know in the comments. Should Stefanski finally speak up? And if you're here for more stories where the media gets exposed and real leadership shines through, make sure you're subscribed. We're just getting started. There's a moment every franchise faces where they have to decide what kind of culture they're going to stand behind. Not what they say in press releases or splashy team-building slogans, but what they show through their actions when the cameras aren't scripted and the pressure gets real. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are in that moment, and all eyes are on how they're handling Shedeur Sanders. He's not just their quarterback. He's a guy standing up to unfair press pressure. The guy refusing to play into controversy. The guy representing the organization with more professionalism than most of the people running it. And instead of rallying behind him, the team is letting him stand alone. That sends a message, not just to the media, not just to the fans, but to every player in that locker room. If Shedeur Sanders, who's been a model of composure and leadership under relentless scrutiny, can't even get a public show of support, what does that say to the rest of the team? That if the media turns on you, you're on your own? That no matter how much grace you show, you'll be left to carry the weight yourself? That's not accountability. That's abandonment. And here's the part that stings. Sanders hasn't done anything to warrant this treatment. He hasn't blown up in interviews. He hasn't thrown teammates under the bus. He hasn't made excuses or asked for special treatment. All he's done is refuse to engage in sensationalism. And that refusal is apparently enough to make him a target. The questions aren't about missed throws or broken plays. They're not about game strategy or chemistry with the offense. No, what Sanders is getting hit with are questions meant to poke at his image, not his performance. Personal politics, social bait, topics designed to be controversial, not constructive. But instead of reacting, he responds. Calmly, thoughtfully, every time. He de-escalates what's clearly intended to be a fire starter. And the media hates it. They hate that he won't play the game. It's almost like the lack of reaction is the problem, because they can't spin composure. They can't run with quarterback responds maturely and respectfully. That doesn't drive engagement. So instead, they double down. Keep asking, keep digging, hoping eventually they'll wear him down. And yet, they never stop to ask why this is a line of questioning they keep pursuing. Why the fixation on everything but football? Why are we talking more about how Shedeur answers press questions than how he reads defenses? Why is a rookie quarterback being asked to handle national political commentary? And why is the organization not stepping in to say, that's not his job? Because let's be honest, it's not. His job is to lead the offense, make plays, and help this team win games. He's not a political spokesperson. He's not a celebrity pundit. And the more the media tries to treat him like one, the more obvious it becomes that they've lost the plot. But even more disappointing is how the Browns have allowed that plot to take center stage. Where's the media relations team steering things back to football? Where's the coach reminding reporters what the press availability is actually for? Where's the organizational voice that says, this isn't what we stand for? Because right now, all we're hearing is silence. And that silence sounds a lot like approval. Shedeur isn't complaining. He's not asking for a shield. He's doing what professionals do. Showing up, doing the job, and letting his work speak louder than the noise. But the team shouldn't be taking advantage of that strength. They should be protecting it. Because eventually, even the most composed players reach their limit. The pressure, the isolation, the constant baiting. It piles up, and if the Browns wait until Sanders finally does show frustration to say something, it'll be too late. By then, the damage is done. The trust is gone. And that's the risk they're playing with right now. Not just media damage, but cultural damage. When players see a teammate being targeted and left hanging, they don't forget that. When leaders stay silent during controversy, they lose credibility. And when organizations fail to back the people doing things the right way, it sends a clear message. Image matters more than integrity. But the fans aren't blind. They see who's holding it together. They see who's leading with patience, even when it's uncomfortable. And increasingly, they're asking why the people paid to lead this team can't show the same courage. The more this goes on, the clearer it becomes. The Browns have a player who could define their future, not just with his arm, but with his mind. A quarterback who understands how to navigate adversity without burning bridges. A young leader who's already showing he can handle more than just a playbook. And instead of protecting that, they're testing it. Shedeur Sanders is showing emotional intelligence, media awareness, and personal discipline far beyond his years. That's rare. That's something you build a franchise around. But if it keeps going unsupported, if the franchise keeps letting him stand in front of hostile questions alone, then that leadership will be wasted. You don't build success on isolation. You build it on trust, consistency, and support. Right now, Sanders is doing his part. The question is whether Cleveland will do theirs. There's still time to shift this, to reframe the narrative, to step up and say, we're not going to let the media bait our players into drama. We're going to focus on football. We're going to protect our leaders, especially when they act with integrity. That doesn't take much. One statement from Stefanski would be enough to draw the line. One press conference where he says, let's keep this about football, would change the entire energy. But as of now, that moment hasn't come. And until it does, Shedeur Sanders will keep walking into those media rooms alone, dodging traps, showing composure, and doing the job no one else seems willing. As the irony, he's proving he's a franchise guy by the way he's handling everything but football. That's not how it should work. But it's what's happening. And at some point, the team needs to start treating him like what he's already shown he is. Because the longer they wait, the more obvious the gap becomes between what Shedeur is offering and what he's getting back. There's something quietly revolutionary about how Shedeur Sanders is moving through all of this. No outbursts, no sidebars, no ego-driven speeches about proving people wrong. Just steady leadership, mature responses, and an almost unnerving ability to remain composed while the chaos swirls around him. And that's the part the Cleveland media just can't seem to process. They've thrown everything at him. Loaded questions, personal bait, political curveballs. Not because it reveals anything about his gameplay, but because they're fishing for something provocative. They want headlines, and they want him to give it to them. But Sanders? He's playing a different game entirely. He knows the cameras are rolling before he even sits down. He knows how fast a soundbite can go from locker room quote to national headline. And he knows exactly how to sidestep all of it without looking rattled. What makes it sting for the media is that he's not doing it with slickness or media coaching or rehearse lines. He's doing it with intention, with intelligence, with a real understanding of how narratives are built, and how not to let yourself be swallowed by them. And it's that refusal to break that's been driving them up a wall. This isn't a quarterback making headlines for all the wrong reasons. This isn't someone caught in controversy. This is someone being targeted for not reacting to controversy at all. Because when you can't provoke someone, when you can't control the narrative they're giving you, you start to look desperate. And right now, the Browns media looks very, very desperate. And then there's Kevin Stefanski. Still quiet. Still absent. Let's be clear, this isn't just a leadership gap. It's an accountability void. The kind that tells your players, your fans, and your critics that when things get uncomfortable, you'll be the first to duck out. Sanders has shown up every week, done every presser, answered every question, even the ones that had no business being asked, all while his head coach remains publicly disengaged. No correction of the media's tone, no public pushback, no vocal support. At this point, the silence is louder than anything Stefanski could say. It begs a question. Why? What's stopping him from simply saying, we're focusing on football. That's what matters here. Shedeur is handling himself like a professional, and we stand by him. That's not a press stunt. That's not controversial. That's leadership. That's what players notice. That's what locker rooms respond to. And when you fail to do that, you create an environment where professionalism gets punished, where young players learn that maturity might make them more of a target, not less. It sets a dangerous precedent, one that says, don't rock the boat and don't expect backup. That's what Shedeur's been left with. And still, he hasn't flinched. It would have been so easy for him to take the bait, to clap back at the press, to make a subtle jab about not being supported, to throw even a hint of frustration into his tone. But he hasn't, because he understands what's really at stake here. He knows that how you respond matters just as much as what you say, especially when you're being pushed, especially when you're under the microscope, especially when no one else is stepping in to deflect that spotlight. And that discipline, that self-control, that's exactly why he should be getting more support, not less. The Browns have a quarterback who not only leads the offense, but leads through tension. Someone who refuses to turn press conferences into soap operas. Someone who doesn't make himself the story, even when he has every reason to. That's the kind of player franchises dream of building around. But in Cleveland, that kind of player is being treated like an afterthought. It's not that the Browns don't realize what they have. It's that they seem paralyzed in how to respond to it. They don't know how to support a quarterback who doesn't need defending, but deserves it. They're watching a young man conduct himself with class and treating it like it's just part of the job, as if leadership that's calm and consistent comes standard with every rookie contract. It doesn't. This isn't normal. This isn't common. This isn't something you brush past and chalk up as, he's doing fine. This is rare, and it needs to be protected. And until that happens, Sanders is doing it alone, navigating loaded questions, enduring disrespectful coverage, carrying a franchise that talks about growth but struggles to support in action. But let's be clear, he shouldn't be alone. This moment, this pressure, this media circus, it's not just a test of Shedeur Sanders' poise. It's a test of Cleveland's culture. And so far, only one side is passing. So if you're seeing what we're seeing, if you're tired of maturity being ignored and manufactured drama being rewarded, go ahead and like the video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Shedeur Sanders is already doing more than he should have to? And if you're here for more breakdowns of the media spin cycle and the real leadership moments that get buried beneath it, hit subscribe. Because if the Browns aren't going to say it, we will. Shedeur Sanders is leading this team with integrity. And it's about time someone matched his energy.